welcome Daniel for the second time back to the Institute for Advanced Astonishment.
Awesome. Thanks. Great to
It
be
looks like
here.
you're in the Institute for Advanced Astonishment also.
Yeah, I'm here at the Samadhi Center, and there's
Ah,
definitely been some advanced astonishment happening here. This is the space here is actually where we've done a lot of the retreats. So yeah, it's
and you were
um,
saying some of the space now that was part of a retreat you've been dedicating to these new films that are just every time I see a new one, because you're really hitting, like you're coming what I would like to call it urgency, and some people don't like that, but I like a sense of urgency, and you're really hitting um, so much that I think when I share it with my friends, I have a feeling they think I'm sharing the same thing because there's so many coming from this one spot with your wife or girlfriend. I'm not sure.
yeah. Lila is
Yeah,
yeah, she's my partner, and
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting. She just in the last few months, her she's opened up to well, we'll talk about it, but whatever
yes,
she's opened up to,
yeah,
whether you call it the higher mind or but she's opened herself to become sort of a conduit for whatever wants to come through, and there's been a lot coming through lately. It's just
yes,
nonstop, and yeah, it's an interesting phenomena. And for her, it's totally new. Like she had never even edited before, so now she's using Adobe
wow.
Premiere and all creating her own films, and she's putting something out every week, like little mini films. So yeah, lots coming through.
They just keep coming, which is beautiful. The hits keep coming, boom, boom, to the heart,
Yeah.
just pounding. And I love that. I think you're doing the music, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
it's a hypnotic. I don't know if that's what you're aiming at, but it feels like a hypnotic quality to try to, and that's what we could talk about today. How do we get through to the veil? How do we poke through and get to,
Yeah, absolutely. I think the music, like in the films, I have different ways of kind of breaking through, or sometimes the music, like I work a lot with, kind of the binaural beating in the background, or creating different resonances, and I just kind of go by my intuition. I don't really, there's sort of things that are out there that are, what everybody's doing, but I've been just sort of feeling it out more, just feeling, what is it that's sort of bringing me into a space of presence, and some of the
yeah,
visuals as well, like the fractals and the
yes.
yantras and sacred geometry, and that there's something about these, I call them like archetypal patterns, or the archetypal sort of sound harmonies that not necessarily harmonic in the well-tempered kind of
Right.
scale, but there's a something that it's like a remembrance can happen, something very
Yes.
deep that
I
comes
I say
forth.
all the time, I don't know if I'm a big John Cassavetes fan. I don't know if you are, and it's not the guy you named during spiritual talks, but his son wrote The Notebook, which was this beautiful book. I don't know if he wrote the book, but he made the movie, and it's about a lady. The guy's reading a story to her in like a retirement home, and there's some people around and younger people. And she realizes as you go through the movie of this beautiful love, it's not quite like an agape love. You would think it's just a regular, beautiful love. And when it hits a point, she realizes it's her story. And she wrote that book. She wrote it so that he would remind her because she keeps going into this amnesia and she forgets who she is and everyone around her are her children, her daughters,
Mm.
and
Beautiful,
it's 5 minutes
beautiful.
sometimes of she remembers and then she wants to yell at him, who is this man in my room? And
Uh,
I see that with these seekers all the time, like, and me when I start, it's you remember and you go, oh my God. And then Monday morning starts and you go back to work and you get lost in
Yeah.
the dream of, but it's a remembrance. And I think that's what you're saying, that the music touches on a frequency that we remember, that's programmed in us or it's written on our heart.
Yeah, yeah, the vibration stuff is really interesting that way. Like at our retreats we have these huge gongs. They're right across from me, but you can't see them right now. But
You put
yeah,
it
they're
in the one of the last movies you made. You were sitting at the gong, and
yeah,
you had the gong with like the om. I think it had the om around it or
yeah.
something.
Actually, I can show you. It's right here. I'll
Yeah,
turn it
it's
around.
a perfect.
Yeah, yeah. These are all the gongs
Ah,
here. So
that's
yeah,
so.
it's a big one. So,
So can we
yeah,
somehow maybe begin with um, what samadhi is and how this beautiful joyous mystery is always here, and maybe 90% of us feel lost in this mystery, and then it's always here though, and you have to drop things almost like ballast, like when you want to float with balloons, you drop the weight and you drop these things and you get a glimpse, and then it's so good that you want more of a glimpse, and almost like a quantum field. It's a quantum field, and you're the particle. You think you're a particle, and then you realize you're a wave, and you just fall back into the field, and you realize you're the field.
hmm. Yeah, yeah, you said it well. That's good. Yeah, I like to me there's a paradox. There's a fundamental paradox with that because yeah, like somehow, through all these different ways, sadhana or entheogens, whatever our path is. Sometimes, people they have, in religions, the bhakti or the selfless service, all these different paths that lead to samadhi, and all of them involve, they're different ways, but they all involve a humbling of the self. So the I, the little I thought, whatever that is for us, it's like the sense of I unhooks from this character that we're playing, and we come into a direct experience with life and what is. So that filter, which is it's made up of all the conditioning, so the craving and aversion and the preferences of that little I, they're all wrapped up in that I thought. So when if I wake up from that, I see it clearly. To me, part of it is we like most of that is operating unconsciously. So when we make it conscious, then it can be dropped. Then it's no
Yes.
longer just happening. Yeah. So for me, that's samadhi is that. But the paradox to it is, yeah, it feels incredible, right? When we unhook from that I, and we're in that direct experience of life, it's bliss. There's a sense of ease and rightness to it. And the paradox is the little self then goes, "Oh, I want to hold
You
that
got it.
and keep it forever. I want to stay there forever." And so this is the pathless path, is this, like you alluded to it earlier, this game of hide and seek that
Yes.
we're playing. So this little self comes back, and the seeker is born. Then as soon as we've had a taste of samadhi, the seeker is born in a big way, and then and it's we until we really get that paradox that it's about letting everything be as it is, because the more we grasp, even those beautiful states, if we have to allow those to come and go, and there's a deeper equanimity that starts to come, that
Yes.
is, and that equanimity is not an equanimity contingent on circumstances or states or anything. It's the, what Ramana called abidance in the true
Yeah.
self. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Sufis would say, why, once you feel that, why live in so, I don't know how they say it, like such a poor room when you live in a mansion, live in the bright room, live in the happy room. Don't the
Yeah.
joyous. So you can move out now. You're allowed to move out. And then though, a week later, you find yourself back in a cardboard box and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you're calling, you're like, I'm locked out of my house.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's incredible to me how, we can be in a state of absolute the deepest bliss,
Yes.
just immersed in this beautiful bliss. And then a second later,
Second.
it's like the mind is distracted, right? The mind comes
Yes.
back and instantly it's like a flip. And it's like you can be in this space where there's this direct knowing, and then as soon as we get hooked by the next thought, it's like a complete dimensional flip where we're just back in the mind. It's like that that fan that was, it was running and it came to a stop. It
Yeah.
starts up again, and
Yeah.
then
It starts up again.
the filter is back,
Yes.
and yeah. So this is the game of in sadhana. I think all of these practices, there's a a point of maturation on the path, and this is really what my sadhana film is about. I think at the beginning of the path, there's the sadhana or the whatever it is we're doing that sort of breaks the pattern of me, and so whether that's techniques or
Yeah.
practices and all of that, or whatever if we're using psychedelics, plant medicine, those are interrupters,
Yeah.
exactly the same as as these practices. But before we have that awakening, there's a sense that there's a doer to all of that. I'm doing something. So there's I'm doing a practice, or I'm doing, Vipassana body scan, whatever it is, or, some Taoist technique or whatever it is, but it's something I've learned with the conditioned mind. So there's this sense of, I'm doing something. There's
Yes.
an I. There's an
You're
I there
achieving. You're
that's
achieving
yeah,
something, attaining something.
yeah. Whereas after the sadhana, after awakening, once I know who I am, we no longer have to go through that, doing part of it to
Yes.
find ourselves. You can start with the awareness that is just here, the presence. So it just becomes the post awakening sadhana is um,
Yes.
is just being. It's just being you. Like it's just abiding, but there's still these, that game of hide and seek isn't over just for having an awakening. We have the vasanas or the samskaras, all that conditioning deep in the body mind, now starts to really come to the surface after we've had the awakening. It actually, to me, that's the where the real path and the real work begins, is when that happens. So,
Yes. Yes. I remember when Alan Watts, who I always trusted, even when I was an atheist, Alan Watts was great. Because I heard him the way I wanted to hear him, the way I could hear him. So I thought he was just talking about um, a universal thing that had nothing about it, bliss and immortal mind or one mind, or I couldn't hear that part. But later, Alan, even when awakening, Alan would say, "There's a flash of lightning, and the door opens, and it's just the ordinary consciousness, just the ordinary mind, and that is it." And I
yeah.
could feel like, no, Alan's wrong. you
Mhm.
know, it's,
Yeah.
and I understand because that gets tricky too. You have to psycho raise his edge, interpreting that it's the ordinary mind, but not the ordinary mind that's lost in I mean that I'll let you explain that part.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it's
Yeah.
actually Lila just put out a beautiful video called The Ordinary is Holy. And
Yes.
and uh, and yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think what happens to a lot of seekers, at the beginning, like you hear about all these mystical experiences and samadhi and I know I'm responsible for some of it. When I put in my films, I have, shots of energy and all this stuff.
Yes.
So people see that, and you do along the way, like you have these amazing mystical experiences and other levels of consciousness and these as in meditation, like you move through the jhanas, these
Yeah.
states of meditative absorption. So there's energy and that energy connects you to different levels and higher worlds and all that stuff. But the awakening is nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's
Yes.
it's uh, it's just recognizing what doesn't change essentially, which is it's pure consciousness that's just
Yeah.
here. So all that changing phenomena, you can get caught in the changing states and all these cool things, but when you wake up, you recognize first of all it was always here.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's never not here, and and
Yes.
uh, and yeah, and there's a peace in that. If I'm no longer looking into the matrix for the next thing or the next experience, there's a peace that flows directly from that, you know, knowing what we are from that
But
awareness.
that looking, at least for me, could be fun sometimes. I mean, it's better than not fun, but either way it works because the not fun squeezes you back home and the
Yeah,
fun, you're enjoying the ride. So that they're both they're both fine. I like when Meister Eckhart says what you was just saying there about it's always here. Meister Eckhart said, God is always home. We're abroad. We have taken a walk and you have to come back to that. It's the
yeah,
prodigal son. It's every single story I rejected, every parable.
yeah,
So I read it and that's the funny thing that everything is so locked until you get a little taste of this advanced astonishment. You have to get a little taste and then it
yeah.
unlocks like the next level, like a video game almost.
Yeah, yeah, that journey and that exploration is so important, and it is another one of those paradoxes because the more we just abide in knowing who I am, like I think, yeah, like what Meister Eckhart said, it all comes down to who am I. We mistake who I am for the character, and it's always the character that's lost. And but that presence is always here. So yeah, so I think that journey is beautiful, and the more I abide, as the self, the energy is free, so it will create
Yes.
more and more direct experiences. And so it's like our baseline of samadhi of that
Yes.
that union experience is it gets higher and higher. So
That's
um,
perfect.
yeah, so it is the ordinary is it, but the ordinary, there's no more ordinary and
Yes.
unordinary. It's that
Yes.
that duality between extraordinary and ordinary is
Oh,
part of what falls away. So yeah, so it's everything. I love in Zen they call it the great reality. Um, so and you can't tell someone what that is. So it's like and they say stuff like it's an empty fullness. It's like
yes.
the greatest fullness, but it's empty. Because it's empty of self. So yeah, but you can't. I mean, those words, people hear that and they
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
you're like a Zen fortune cookie or something, and it's yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
remember someone telling me I had talked about the astonishment medicine or the entheogen that you said, and she took LSD with a friend. and this was she was suicidal, so smart. Because sometimes that's the one that is so suicidal, so smart, and they don't see a
Yeah.
way out, and and you're convinced you read everything, you know everything, and they tried the LSD, and at some point she realized, and I think she looked in a mirror, but she realized, I am it, and she wanted to go tell her friend. And it was the perfect time that you cannot go tell the friend because you
Yeah.
are the friend. You are the whole.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, and it like in our the self-inquiry retreats, I see it over and over. Like people will, they get it, they get the cosmic joke, and they're like forcefully trying to tell other people, like it's you,
Yes,
like
yes.
you're the one, and people are just like, whoa, like chill, just like you can't convey it to someone. They have
I
to literally go through that. And,
I tell everybody here, because to me that's like the Molotov cocktail that you dropped in the last podcast here, when you were waking up your partner, and she said,
yeah.
"I want it right now." And that's what this whole podcast, like we tell stories and all that, but we want to give as many hits that like traps you could fall into, and best techniques to awaken, and the best things that actually work. And you said, I think it took 28 hours. I could be wrong with the number. 26, 28,
Something like that. That
a
sounds
little
about
over
right.
24.
Something
I
like
think
that.
it was.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I liked what you said. You said the best thing you could offer was at that moment, at that time, was eye gazing, which could be great. Tim
hmm
Freak, the philosopher, loves eye gazing, but you had eye gazing on iboga, was it? Some kind of medicine.
yeah. So at our IM retreats, our physical retreats, yeah,
Yeah,
we used Iboga for microdosing. So
yes.
yeah, so yeah, that's a whole thing. So it's an accelerator or a catalyst, which yeah, it's amazing doing something similar to what we're already doing in the
And then in my
meditation.
memory, I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I like, even if it's wrong, it's really good. So eye gazing on the medicine and doing fierce, that's my word, but I thought you said it,
Yeah.
fierce self-inquiry on the
Yeah.
medicine, eye gazing, like, come
Yeah.
off it. You know who you are. You know, two people doing that. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And then you said, and then all the prep before that, I'm sure, like satsang and meditation. And then that, and then I think you said after 5-MeO DMT. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you're doing that for, we some of our retreats were 10 days long. So you
yeah,
can imagine doing that like morning till night, and just silent meditation as well. So yeah, people get completely dismantled
that's an
and we
intervention for the ego. That's,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's huge. Yeah. Yeah, we have to be very careful with those particular retreats because, yeah, it can, like, if someone going into those retreats has a sort of instability in the psyche, or,
right.
there's a real screening process. It's like
You check on that. Yeah,
yeah, like I interviewed every person
that's
who signed up because what I realized very quickly was you sometimes, yeah, people are not ready for that. There has to
great. Yeah,
be
yeah,
a capacity within the self structure. It has to actually be a fairly healed, cohesive self structure. If there's like really deep, unresolved trauma, there can be these dissociated parts which have really, really strong energy. And it's like, I don't know if you've witnessed what happens like when people take 5-MeO DMT, if they have these dissociated parts, but weird, incredible stuff can happen.
yeah.
So those parts can come to life in very kind of not good
not good
ways.
ways.
Like it can be a full dissociation, and so we want essentially a healed psyche or relatively cohesive psyche, because the process of doing these retreats can sort of integrate and heal the psyche as well. So it's not like people have to be perfect when they come in,
Right, right.
but but sometimes there's just deep trauma work and other things that we have to do before coming. So
Yeah, we always think about a mystery school here, and so I wonder, did you do that like through a little survey first before they actually come, or do you actually
yeah,
have them sit for a week and talk to you? Or...
yeah. So there's a survey that we do, like just to, if they've actually been clinically diagnosed with,
Yes, yes. You see the red
schizophrenia,
flag.
bipolar, all of that. Yeah. Or or if there's anything that sort of stands out, I would just in the Zoom calls, I would just sort of start to probe and
Yes,
see we would start to do a self-inquiry, and then I would start to get a sense of whether the witnessing capacity is there to just allow, because you're moving beyond your comfort zone. So if you have that capacity to move beyond the comfort zone in sort of a witnessing position, and to sort of relax the mind, like we enter into a don't know mind. So if someone has a mind that's like really got a fierce grip, and there's no kind of capacity to relax into what's unfolding, those are two sort of prerequisites for it.
and would you guide those people back to the mat or back to give them
Yeah,
look,
absolutely. Like there's stages to,
yes,
just like developing a meditation practice might
yeah,
be, for a year might be what they need to do, or maybe,
yes,
doing breath work, or
yeah,
go psychology work, like going to the inner shadow work and all of
it's
that kind of
perfect.
stuff. Yeah.
It's like preheating an oven.
Yeah,
You have to be
exactly.
ready.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it really is a process, and
Yeah,
we actually, I don't know if you came across it, but we, in the last 2 years since I talked to you, like the center was part of a research study. So we had a professor who, it's like a Kensho awakening research study, and
that's great.
it was really, the questions being asked were, what are the conditions that lead to
Oh, it's
awakening?
great. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and
Almost
the
like a
result.
David Hawkins kind of scale of what you need and when you're ready to pop. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it was a very rigorous sort of
that's
uh,
great.
study that was done. Yeah, and the results were really interesting, and not exactly what I would have expected. So
Yeah,
there were some things, like the it's interesting, like with the iboga and the entheogens and all of that. So like when it comes to awakening, we it didn't really matter. Like what actually was the most important thing was people who had on the questionnaire and the survey, if they had sort of been through kind of a dark night of the soul in their
yes,
life.
yes.
So they're forced to, face their shadow in some way, and they had sort of moved through a period of that, or moved through some trauma, or something like that. That was the number one indicator of
That's great.
someone who was more likely to have a Kensho experience. And
My
and sometimes,
my my
yeah,
teacher told me when I was ready, I thought I was ready. I've been waiting forever, and I had no idea of the what awakening was, but I always was looking for a loophole as an atheist, and I remember a phone call then where I was in a perfect spot of joy of I was still a skeptical atheist, but I knew I was looking for I sealed the door, I shut the door, but I left the slot open at the bottom. I was looking for just something. I knew something's off. There's something missing. But I was sitting, I'm on the phone with my teacher, and my dog is sitting on a chair next to me. I'm sipping like a fancy drink. The dog is sitting there. Everything's great. And he said, I think you just need a little more suffering. And I said, what? Like my parents were alive. Everything was great. But
Hmm.
but I was too cocky and arrogant. Like you said earlier, you have to be humbled. And then my dog died, my mother died. Everything came and I went deep into a dark night of the soul.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. My teacher that I worked with for years, he said the same thing. He yeah, sometimes you know, the thing that drove him crazy, like people would come and work with him for periods of time, and but then they just go back into their life, and you know, the pattern comes back. They just keep doing what they've been doing, and he would always say they haven't suffered enough. You know,
Yes. You
they
need a
just need more
shock.
suffering.
You need
Hmm.
shock therapy in some way.
Yeah, yeah. They just sometimes you don't really get the truth, which is that you know
Yes.
whatever it is, or if we think we're pursuing something in the world that's going to lead to happiness, you know, it's all just like a dream. It's all a
Yes.
house of cards that's eventually it's going to fall apart. You know,
Yes.
everyone dies, everything falls apart. It's
Yes. Yes.
all impermanent. So if we keep putting our you know energies into you know going for happiness in the matrix
Yes.
and then eventually it's like we suffer enough because it never works, you know, or sometimes you get to if you get an easy life, you know, you get to the end of the life and you
That.
haven't suffered, but it's you haven't you know you've never looked inside, you've never come to what's in the shadows. So,
Yeah.
so in some ways, it's a gift to have a life where you know your everything is dismantled. You know, I think it's you know definitely you know like my teacher would say there's two paths. There's the path of suffering and the path of wisdom, and
Yes.
most people I definitely took the path of suffering for the longest time,
Yeah.
but I think that's true. I think, you know, there are people who get it. They see how it works. They see how you know, it is sort of a setup. And if you really have that wisdom, you can actually detach from it
Yes. That's what we were
and start.
talking about earlier, before we hit record. I think that'll help people that your background is in philosophy, as is mine, in psychology, and I'm sure, and I know you dove into everything. You really, when you were a seeker, you were seeking. That's like a Michael Jordan of the seeker, you know, and I always think of Michael Jordan when he would lose a game, a big game, which was rare when it was a big game, and they put the mic in his face, and he would say, "We were a little complacent," and that happiness can make you complacent. And he said, "We're going to go back. We'll look at film." And you know, he'd punch a hole in the wall or something. You know, it's that suffering and the loss that makes you ascend. You know, you need the suffering. You learn from the suffering.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like that quote from Ramakrishna. You have to, you know, you have to be like someone with their hair on fire once
Yes,
upon
that's my
through.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Or Ramana would always say like there's this vigilance which, you know, it never ends, you know, but it's there's a wisdom when he talks about vigilance, it's not a vigilance like I have to do something. You know, the vigilance is to see the truth over and
Yes,
over and over.
yes.
You know, it's coming back to the truth of what's here now over and over.
Love that. So
Mhm.
what would you say, my first question, is the biggest lie that the ego is telling whoever's watching this right now? Like, what's the
Mhm.
biggest lie?
Well, the biggest lie is you are not who you think you are. You
Yes.
know, for most people, unless you've had an awakening and a kensho. If you find, that which remains in deep sleep, when the mind and body have dropped off in deep sleep, if you know who you are as that which remains in deep sleep, then that's the highest truth. But for the vast majority of people, we there's different levels of
Yes.
identification with character. So I would say that's the number one thing, is just we don't know who we are. So,
Yes.
so the lie of the ego is that, I am this Dan character, that I am this body, and that, all of the stuff that goes along with that, the senses and the perceptions and the language, the memories, all of that is permeated by the I thought. So that false I is made of all of that, and we get hooked into it in a million different ways. So all my preferences of what, the ego is just it's just resistance. It's resistance to whatever is arising. So, I have a preference about whatever food, or a politician who
Yeah.
wins, or whatever it is, right? Like and then there's suffering. It might be just low grade suffering, or it might be huge suffering if I'm super identified. But so all of that, and then there's like I would say that, there's a part of the delusion of that false I, where there's this fundamental split into duality of the sense, and this is something we come to more in, like, through self-inquiry and the meditation. But there's this split where the sense of observer and what is observed. So there's this sense that there's an I here witnessing a world that is out there, basically.
Yes.
And that is sort of the last thing to go. Like the all the self-inquiry and all, if we can sort of stop reacting to our all of our preferences and playing that game of craving and aversion, so we can just be here. Eventually those energies build and build, and then it brings us to the witness, which, a lot of the teachers will say the witness is the last holdout of the ego. Um,
Yes.
and so all of that, I would say, is, the lie. It's
Yes. And
yeah.
it seems like the exposure of the I say this every time, but I think you agree with this, the best, fastest, highest advanced technology to expose that lie is take the medicine in the right, quiet, sacred place and just shut your eyes and take it just once, just one night, just give up and just, I challenge you, just take it and see what happens, but take it with that intention. Like, I don't know anything. Let me see. Is this really the lie? And see what and it just seems like the medicine dissolves that and you at least get that hit, and there's a knowing there that I'm trying in a book right now that's coming out soon, trying to write about that knowing, but it doesn't allow you to write about it. So, but there's a knowing
Yeah.
that comes with it that's beyond Schopenhauer, it's beyond Kant, it's beyond the
Yeah.
philosophers, it's beyond
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
normal that
That
you're used to.
the whole language part of
Yeah,
of what we are, that's part of the filter. So
right.
all that language and all that knowing, yeah. And for me,
Beyond
that,
PhD.
yeah, it's like in the Matrix, like when you take the red pill,
Yes.
it's, and there's many things that, sort of metaphorically are that red pill as well. So there's like literally the pill, like if you could do like a flood dose of iboga, or
Yes.
5-MeO DMT, literally that, if you do enough of it, the whole,
Yes.
everything dissolves, so the little I is gone.
Yes.
Um, but also there's the red pill of, putting yourself in a Zen session,
Yes.
is a red pill. It's like there's conditions of no escape for the ego.
Yeah.
You're literally sitting in meditation for, hour after hour. Like it's a slow dissolving, but or it's not 5-MeO. It just happens
Right.
in an instant. Or self-inquiry retreat where
Yes.
you're doing that day after day. You're doing exactly the same thing. So the beauty of I love combining it. For
Yeah.
me, it's not about this or that. It's
The
like
cocktail.
yeah, like what are the best tools for this
Yes.
on the planet? And I'm always looking for the best tools. And
Yes.
for me, it's I have no attachment to any tradition,
Yes. Just what
anything.
works. We want
Yeah,
what actually works, not what we say works, not what we heard works, but what actually works that you win.
yeah.
You
That's
get
it.
to the
Yeah.
top.
And if whatever I thought 5 years ago, I have no
Yes.
problem
No.
letting go of that, whatever, if there's something better. So,
Yes.
yeah, so to me, it's an ongoing exploration of all of these things.
We have so
And
many taboos against the medicine, against this or that. There's so many, like you said earlier, judgments and preferences, and it's so
yeah,
tricky. It's really like a maneuvering this. You have to maneuver through all these
yeah,
obstacles, and the beauty is back to the child game, like we said, cosmic hide and seek. It's also like a cosmic hot and cold. You're getting hot, you're getting cold, and when you get hot, you get a little hit. But it's very tricky because when you get cold, you can get an ego hit that you think you're right, but it
mhm.
and you have to really feel it inside. And
Yeah, yeah. I would say one of the biggest pitfalls with that game is when you like if there's a sense that of knowing, if every time I think I know something, it's like, okay, I've got it figured out, that's always the ego. It's
yes,
because that knowing is always conditioned. It's the past, so it has to be the past. So it's you're filtering through that language and memory part of us.
yes,
So yeah, so that's the crazy thing is
no
like
grasp.
the deeper we go, yeah, on like the farther I go, the more I truly have like a not knowing mind, and
Yeah,
and and that's the
it's
astonishment or it makes everything new at every
yes.
moment. So
Yes.
so
Everything we read about
if
in Zen when we were little, like the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and then you realize it's look, ma, no hands. Like when you rode your bicycle
yeah
and you took your hands off, and it's that. It's
yeah
all those simple things they're woven into it, and you knew it, and then you get this amnesia that I can do it on my own. It's fun.
yeah yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, so yeah, I think for me, like like the entheogens and psychedelics and all of that. It's been obviously a part of my journey.
Yes.
But I also see, and I'm not sure if we talked about this last time at all, but there is a huge pitfall with it because the states that are produced are beautiful. It can be a huge interrupt. Like it's beautiful if it interrupts the pattern of just whatever robotic script was playing out in life. So it's
Right.
amazing because it's like holy, there's a whole way of being that I didn't even know about. So
Ecstasy. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like just in terms of your life trajectory, it's a huge thing. But at the same time, then as I was mentioning, like that, you know, anything can become a pattern. The ego can appropriate any
Easily.
pattern. So I see over and over, people, if somebody tells me they've done 200 ayahuasca sessions or
That
something,
happens here all the time.
yeah, and it's so it's like yeah, it's like the medicine can become another crutch
Yeah.
and another trap and just another level of ego control. So we have to really see
Yeah.
how it works and how and expect the mind to appropriate the path because
Yeah.
it will. I haven't met anybody who, just has an awakening and that's it. It's like
No.
the ego always comes back,
Yeah.
always, every case, and there's always this ongoing, you know, um, spiritual persona that comes back and chasing states and all of that,
Yes.
and trying to live. I don't know how many people, when I ask on the meditation retreats when they fill out the form like, what are you looking for? And quite often it's, I had this incredible LSD experience or psychedelic experience, and I just want to live there forever. I want to be in that state forever. And if that's a samadhi state, I want to be in samadhi forever. And it's like, that one that wants that, is what has to go. Like
Yeah.
that preference is wanting something other than what is. Like, what is the state that is here and now? If
Yes.
you want something that is other than this state here and now, who is that wants that,
Yes. Can you tie that into, I would imagine, mountain? First, there were mountains and rivers. Then there was no mountain or rivers. I think that's
Yeah,
getting stuck in that state right there. I was stuck. I love that Ram Dass, Alan Watts in a cave or a monastery. I don't know how the story goes, but they're somewhere in France in a cave or something at 3 in the morning, and was it Watts turned to Ram Dass and said, "You're stuck in the emptiness a little. You're clinging to the emptiness." And because it's so beautiful to be in that Diamond Sutra, this is all a dream, but now you have to
yeah,
come back to the mountain
yeah,
again,
that's it.
again. Yeah,
Yeah, that mountains and rivers analogy is beautiful because,
yeah,
yeah, when it seems mountains are no longer mountains, rivers are no longer rivers, it's,
yes,
you're in this state of, where things are, that's where the extraordinary is, these experiences
you want
and
to
yet
stay.
every state, if it's a state, it's impermanent. So,
Yes,
um, so there's only one thing that isn't impermanent, and that's the what you are, which is the knower of all those states. And
yes,
and so if you're caught in any of those changing states, yeah, it's just there's an I that has a
yes.
preference, and it will eventually suffer if it's clinging to
I
state.
love that. That's a beautiful thing to say. When if you're there and some kind of suffering, we can call it an alarm clock in the dream or a red flag in the dream, and all of a sudden you're this you're in this such blissful state, and the sirens are going off, and you're suffering. Something's wrong, and
Yeah,
move out of that. You know,
yeah.
don't cling.
My very first samadhi experience, it was amazing because it was like the universe gave me the whole setup basically, because it gave me this ultimate peak experience where I was in total delusion, thinking I was Jesus or Buddha. I was like, this is it. I'm like the chosen one. I could feel the power of the universe moving through me. And then, very quickly it disappeared. And then I went from the highest to the lowest,
Wow.
so in that one experience, I, I didn't get it. It didn't land at that time what had happened. I didn't have the wisdom, to understand that process until, decades later. But I was given the opportunity to see it in that moment. And so, so you get the peak and then you get the low. But,
Yeah.
but, so our capacity to be equanimous with all of it, allows it
Yes.
all. So the more we can just be equanimous with it, the more it will come and go, the more of life we'll get. But you're going to get the, you don't just get the top of the wave, you get the whole wave. Like the,
That's it. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mhm.
So what do you think? I think we're laying out a lot of the traps of this. Do you have any favorite trap that maybe somebody can get stuck in?
Mhm. Well, I think yeah, there's different traps at different stages. So like we're just about to put out a film, like we're maybe like a week away, which it uses in Zen. They have the ox herding pictures
Yes,
of Zen,
yes.
which depict the different stages of the past. So so I would say, one of the biggest things that I see out there, especially people who are really, they're drawn to these kind of non-dual traditions like Advaita Vedanta and
Yes.
doing the self-inquiry. Um, it's like you get a taste of those traditions and the way they speak in it. This is a really sticky ego trap, but they'll say things like there's nothing to look for, like what you
Yes.
are is
It's
right
done.
here, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're already
You're it.
awake. You're
Yeah.
already it.
It's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, and I would say one of the biggest delusions is believing that, is like it is true. Of course, it's true, but if it's the ego saying, okay, that's great. Like I don't have to do any sadhana. I don't have to investigate. If like the ego thinks it knows just from hearing it intellectually. I think that's a huge.
That's a
Yeah,
big one. Yeah.
like I would say the two big ones, like mistaking that intellectual understanding for awakening or a direct knowing, that's number one. And then mistaking that direct knowing, like the one-off experience for of that
Yes.
for liberation.
That's good.
Just because you've had an awakening doesn't mean you're liberated.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so I would say those are the two biggest traps. Yeah.
yes. I remember a good friend of mine would say, um, f as we were, there were so many of these amazing, and I would say awakening, realization, and he was, and then he saw it, and he said, "It's good to have that good friend," and he said, "Glimpse," and my ego said, "What? No, 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 no. This was awakening," and he said,
Mhm.
"Glimpse, like big glimpse, little glimpse, whatever, tremendous glimpse, but it's a glimpse, it's a nice peak, opening of, but it's not the." And I think what I'm getting from you is that as you're climbing, it's like that Zen when you get to the top of the mountain, just keep climbing. Don't stop. Like just keep this infinite unfolding. Don't
Yeah.
don't rest a little, but don't rest too long because it hardens and it becomes bullshit. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, I think they're on the mountain. There are these plateaus, and we
Yes.
think we're at the top of the mountain, but we're actually on the plateau, and we we're not looking up, and it's like, oh, there's still it, and the mountain never ends.
Yeah,
There's
and that's so beautiful. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe, and I couldn't get this as an atheist, skeptic, materialist, but now I love to say it, but when I say it, I feel like a born again. Like it's like I could watch it not land on people, and but it's you have to really revel in being wrong sometimes and it's more of the feeling and not the right and wrong argument, It's not the
yeah.
concepts, but it's this thing beyond concept.
Yeah, yeah. All the mystics have always talked about the humbling of the
Yes.
self, and part of that humbling is to realize, my character is wrong, a
Yes.
lot of the time, and it's that capacity to, just say, okay, it's what's next,
Yeah. So beautiful.
just move. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So if someone's watching right now and they don't have money for a retreat and they don't even have money for another book, they bought 3,000 books and they're trying
Yeah.
to get this, what is, I don't know if you're an anti-practice guy right now. I'm not sure. Like some of the neo-advators, like I think you're not that. Like, well, that plays a role. I understand what they're saying. Like you're already there, you're there, but it doesn't. They go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm there, and they want to like kick the dog, and move them.
Yeah.
They're in hell. So,
Yeah.
what would what would
So
the
I,
one practice be? Or
Well, yeah, so I'll tell you where I've sort of ended up with
yeah,
this. So, so our the retreats that we've done for the last years at the center here, we're sort of my attempt to create the conditions that are going to lead to the clearing of the mind and body. To we of course can't make awakening happen, but we create these conditions, putting the ego in these conditions of no escape. So that's what I was doing for years, and just in the last 2 years since we had our last call, I've put the I am retreats online now. So
oh,
one of the things I realized is, doing it in person is awesome. There's certain benefits, but it's not scalable at all. And feeding people and housing them and everything for
it's a
for
lot.
10 days or a week,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a lot. And so I basically distilled the essence of those retreats down so that people can basically create a retreat in their
I love that.
home. Yeah, or rent a Airbnb or whatever, get some friends together, and do these retreats. And it's basically, it comes down to doing meditation during the day. So at the beginning of the retreat, I start out with techniques and the usual sort of dismantling techniques. And then as we go through the retreat, there's less and less doing, so
Yeah,
that the meditation part of it becomes just being, essentially.
beautiful.
And then incorporating the self-inquiry dyads in the evenings. So people are working with partners, staring into each other's eyes, and inquiring. The one person will. It's the Charles Berner method that we're using. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but
Sure.
it's I would say of everything I've discovered on the planet, it's the most powerful.
Oh, that's
Um,
good. Charles
uh,
Berner.
yeah.
Okay.
So awaken the world. We have it's the online I am retreat. We're
Yeah.
just about to launch. I'm calling it the perpetual sadhana. So it's going to be every week a new cycle will start. So it starts on a Saturday, ends on a Friday, and it's 7 days of going through this cycle, and it's just intensive. Meditation. There's teachings every day to
That's great.
which talk about the hindrances and the challenges that are coming up in the process. So it's walking people through the process. And so
Yes.
I've taken the teachings from all the past retreats and kind of put them all together. There's Q&As and all of that. So for me, that's my best attempt at kind of, if somebody says how if I really
Yeah.
want to
I love
awaken.
that. It's
Yeah,
experiential. It's like soaked in the experiential. I
yeah.
noticed I had retired recently from New York and came here, and so for fun, and I'm going to come into that retreat just for fun. Um, I did two things just for fun. Retreat. I never did it before, but for fun, I joined. And don't laugh. Don't you can't laugh. I'm going to watch it. Jordan Peterson University for the philosophy. I just wanted to see because there was Plato, and so I said, let me do that. And it was a nice amount of money, but not bad. And you could do, and then the courses were, there were Socrates and Plato and Shakespeare and the roots of classical music. Like I was trying to get to that just to see where they were going. But then,
Mhm.
for fun, at the same a little bit later, I took a one-off retreat with James Finley, who's with Richard Rohr down in New Mexico. Do you know that? So it's almost like perfect, like where you are in Canada and Mexico. It's Richard Rohr, who's like a Thomas Merton kind of guy, and like a
Yeah.
non-dual priest, and he has James Finley and Cynthia Bourgeau, all mystical and experiential. And so for fun, they did instead of this Jordan Peterson, which was like a year, you know,
Mm.
I
Wow.
quickly lost total interest, never really went back to it because
Mhm.
Finley just talked about the way of the pilgrim for four
Mm.
days. Remember that book?
A long time ago. Yeah, I think so.
A Russian monk who has a bad arm. So he goes, he's searching for the cure of his suffering.
Mhm.
And a Russian peasant, not a monk. And he goes into a church, and the guy talks about ceaseless
Mhm.
prayer. And this peasant lights up. He knows there's something, and he doesn't know where to go. And this is like what you're doing distilled in the week. He he looks around. There's the search, and one guy says there's a monk like 5 towns away that all he knows is ceaseless prayer.
Mm.
And he starts to run, not walk. So the urgency of going, and he finds the monk in his garden, and they stay up all night talking about ceaseless prayer. And it's like a mantra. It's the same as a mantra. Just say this one. It was Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. But it could be whatever, there's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Yeah,
Whatever it
yeah,
is. And over
yeah,
and
whatever.
over. And he said, say it a
Beautiful.
thousand times a day, and
Yeah.
nothing happened. Say it five that, and he started to feel less pain, no joy, but less pain. And he said it 10,000 times a day, and then he started saying it automatically in his heart, like a month, and not with his lips and not with his mind. And it threw the monkey wrench into the mind, and he became joyful. And the rest of the book is him preaching it to everyone how to. So I think of I love that in 1 week you're doing that kind of
Yeah.
experiential. You really
You,
feel it.
yeah, you just summed it up beautifully. That's it. Like to me, I always talk about continuous practice at the
Yes.
retreats. So it's like you're so yeah, so if that whatever that is, people are at different stages. So if that, it could be yeah, saying the name of God or whatever
Or
it is.
self-inquiry or
Yeah, or I am, I am
yes.
here, whatever it
Yes.
is. It could be anything, but there's that continuity of interrupting that usual habit pattern
Yes.
of the mind. And then
Don't
there's
give
a
it a chance to come in back in.
yeah, that's it. And then there's this alchemy that happens. Then when we
Yes.
do that, the energy starts to build, and and that energy has its own agenda, and or Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's
Yeah.
it's, it's there's a sort of grace that can come, and when we awaken, then if we, awaken in that space, then we just, to me, that's the name of God is,
Yes.
like in the, the Bible, like the name of God, I am the I am,
Yes.
which, or it normally it's I am that I am, but
Yes.
my favorite translators like Steiner, it's actually
Ah,
I am the I am. So
that's even
so it's
better.
when that I am is it's not a language, it's not a mantra anymore, but it becomes an actual
Yeah.
beingness, So that I am has woken up beyond any doing or practice or language. And I think all of the great teachers, like the ones you're speaking of, there's this process where at the beginning there is this incredible kind of giving everything to the practice, the continuous prayer. I love that,
Yes,
and the
ceaseless. That's so
ceaseless.
good.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
I go
Continuous.
right into orbit when I hear it, and I'm sure there's other people that they're not ready for that, and that's okay.
Mhm.
What do you say
Yeah,
about that? Like they're not ready for that, but there's something for them that'll be the next, like you said earlier, stepping stone. Like it might not be that stone, but it'll be this stone.
exactly. Yeah. And I find that with the retreats, sometimes there's or self-inquiry, the same thing. There can be this clearing process.
Yes.
So it may not be about awakening right at this moment, but maybe there's a deep unprocessed experience, that like a catharsis that has to
Yes.
happen, or clearing, or an insight that might come, and through that insight there's a big shift in one's life, and things coming into alignment. And so I feel like people, when they do this work, they will get exactly what they need at whatever point they're at on the
Yes.
path. Hmm.
So I just talked to Martin Ball, who I think is a good friend of yours also, and he we talked obviously about DMT, 5-MeO, and I kind of pushed back just a little bit on the LSD. LSD, if you're a deep, deep meditator that knows what you're doing, whatever words you want to put up, you're a navigator, you're an explorer, you're a psychonaut, and and you really let everything go. On LSD, the space is the space, the non-dual space is the space. And I wanted to get from Martin, does the 5-MeO, I get that it's a faster rocket launch, but does it stick more during the week when you go back to your day job or your life, or when the roof leaks or the tire goes flat? Whatever
Hmm.
your thoughts are.
Hmm. So this is, I would say, the most important question to ask, because for me, in the retreats, you know, what happens is people will have an amazing experience, peak experience, and then they just go back to life, and patterns come back. And so
Yeah.
there's a sense I've got it and then I lost it. So what makes it stick? How do we, in meditation world, they talk about turning the state into a trait. You know,
Yeah.
so
Oh, it's so
so
beautiful. I
yeah,
love
so you want to, there has to be something that makes a permanent shift and a permanent change. What is that? And for me, I sometimes talk about a rewiring process that happens.
Yes.
So the whole mind body, there's this neuroplasticity to it. So when we have these experiences like 5-MeO, first of all, I should mention, so like it is different than LSD for sure. There's something like the experience of it is a different kind of gone than in LSD. So
When you say
um,
different, you mean beyond
there, so there's
velocity and speed and like that power of it. You mean beyond that?
yeah. Yeah, so like in 5-MeO world, we had an amazing facilitator at our retreats, Chad
Oh,
Charles, and the language he uses, like they talk about a full release with
yes.
5-MeO. So you think about you know like in LSD, I've had LSD experiences where there it's definitely there's an opening into just this luminous emptiness. To me, there's this state of presence. There's the traces of the little self are gone. There's no thoughts happening in that space, but yet there's still someone there experiencing, but it's not a person. It's just it's presence itself, beingness itself. So you
Yes.
could say. so to me that, there's a sense that mind and body have dropped off. But yet there's still a world there
Can we
being.
call just to you would say you don't think you could reach the Godhead, that non-dual. I call
So,
it Godhead, whatever you want to.
to me, the Godhead is all it's possible to always experience
Yeah.
that because that presence, that awareness is always here. So what's unique about 5-MeO, I think, is it blasts you so far beyond this world. So you're no longer here, experiencing this world here. And I don't know
Yes.
what it's doing. It's a huge mystery, but you're so far beyond. So it's like there's the sense that there's any sort of semblance of an I having any experience. It's just complete not knowing. When that self structure comes back, usually if one has had a full release, when that first flicker of the self structure comes back online,
Yes.
it's usually in this awe state, like
Yes.
absolute people crying, just, they're in reverence but they can't say what it is they've seen, most times.
Yes.
Sometimes people get all kinds of experiences, but I think in the full release, there's no I there to have, to report whatever it is that's
Yeah.
reporting.
Yeah.
That memory, all of that is out the
Yes.
door. So it's like after you've had like a, deep samadhi experience, it's like you're left with the taste of the divine, the perfume of the divine.
Yes.
So there's that perfume is there, and the reverence and the awe and all of that. So we can have, I think any of these entheogens they're taking you there. They're moving in that direction. And I think, like the mystics describe these states, like there are mystics who, or yogis who experience nirvikalpa samadhi
Yes.
without entheogens. So I think we can
Yes.
get there, without the helpers as well. So I think it's just a matter of degree and like how do you measure that? It's
Yes.
a like when you're in that state, it's a stateless state, so there's no one there to even measure. So I would say, for me, what I've witnessed, with 5-MeO, like there's such a huge charge that there can be, incredible clearing happens in that 15 minutes of that moving through the system. It's an incredible amount of energy that is moved in that space. So I would say, there's the depth of that experience, but then there's experiences like, if you do a 10-day retreat where you're
Yes.
continuously abiding in presence, you're in that state of neuroplasticity, or if you do an iboga flood dose,
Yes.
you're in this optimal state for rewiring. So I think, so the depth of that experience, it's like getting the big kahuna all at once. And but then there's a
Does it
benefit.
stick? Does it stick?
Yeah, well, I think yes and no. I think it depends. It depends. So I think, I've seen people who have had huge unblockings of their energy, a huge sort of unburdening and a freeing of energy. And there is a change in life. And other times, it can just be a peak experience, and it doesn't seem to stick.
Yes.
Or the people know, maybe there's an intuition that there's still more to unblock, or there's still more samskaras to free, and so I think we can't make generalizations about these
I
things.
agree.
Yeah, I think, and even the experience itself. The one thing with Chad, it was funny. Like I would sometimes look at participants and I have an idea, oh, like this person's gonna have a rough
Yes.
ride. This person's gonna like she's gonna cruise right through. She's gonna get the full release, and I was always wrong every time.
Wow.
So
That's
like
amazing.
it's like when people enter into that space, my feeling is, there's different ways to talk about it, but the sense I have is spirit will give you what you need in that space, and we never know um, what somebody's going to get. So
Right.
so it can be all manner of experiences. Sometimes people they'll get like the God experience, the big God experience,
Full release.
the ineffable. Yeah. And
Yes.
other times they'll go through a hellish experience, and it could be very, very difficult, but it could be even more productive for them than if they had that beautiful experience, because
Can I
maybe
say
there's,
it's what they need?
yeah,
Like, yeah.
exactly.
And you're
Yeah.
saying it's almost like a really good poker game in the Las Vegas of the Godhead where you're like, I know this one's going down and this one's going to win. And it's the bluff is there. The veil is so good
Yeah.
that even you couldn't tell the difference of who might
Never
have
know.
a release and who.
No, no. And even for myself, like going into it, sometimes I would participate in the retreat as well, like do a,
Yes.
a 5 Neo. And at the beginning, I thought I had some idea of how it worked, but like my very first one was I was one of those people who I had a lot of deep primordial holding on. So I went through, it was like an exorcism kind of experience. But it was a full release. But sometimes like Chad would say, you can either surrender or you can submit. And
Ah,
so the
like
surrender is when you actually let go and it just happens. But the
submit,
submission is when it's like the ego's
get
like
hit.
fighting the whole thing, and it's just like blown apart. So my
Wow.
first experience was a submission experience where there was just no choice. I couldn't fight it. The little I couldn't fight it.
Yeah.
So it was forced to let go. And then after that, it was mostly submission experiences, actually until the last I am retreat I did. I went there. So there was like this sort of primordial death of the ego experience. So it really, really feels truly like dying, like
Yes.
the ego really feels like it's dying. And
It is. It
yeah,
is.
yeah, but like it's like exactly like
Yeah.
even like when people are dying, like the last one that happened for me was, people when they're on their deathbed, and they're going through that death
Yes.
experience, like the mouth will even go in these, there's these certain sort of archetypal forms that come and everything. So the body
It's
was
there.
going through that. Yeah,
Wow.
but it was incredibly productive because the first time was very it was just years ago. It was more that submission, but then when it was like that same sort of experience happened again, which my little ego really, it was the
Yeah.
last thing it wanted. It was like I just hope that never happens again. But it happened, and I was okay with it, actually. I was
Yes.
I, I was in a more of an equanimous state where I could just allow the body, the whole body mind, to go through this death experience. And it happened consciously. So people would see it, and they're like, holy crap, I hope I don't get what he's getting. But actually, in terms of the path,
It's the
um,
other. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're never given more than you can handle, I
I
think,
love
or
that.
sometimes you are, but uh, but I think it is, there's a benevolence to spirit. I
Ah,
truly.
so beautiful.
Mhm.
I think of some of what you're saying. I think of my dad who was like a numbers runner for the mafia, like a Tony Soprano kind of dad.
Oh, wow.
My mom
That's
was
cool.
like a mystic, but my dad was that. And he would
Yeah.
always talk about jinxing something, and I hated it. I hate it. But
Mhm.
but it's sort of like, don't get cocky. Don't say it. Don't say, and you've been saying this throughout this whole talk for an hour, like when you go you're cooking or you're doing and you're like, I got it. Don't
Mhm.
do that. Don't settle on that, because you're gonna get taught that you don't have it at that moment. You're call it's almost like you're asking for them to come, this experience to come, to show you don't. It's an ungraspability, please. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, literally, I think you are because it's the ego that thinks that. So there's
Yeah.
more to
So you're gonna get
dismantle. You know?
it.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
get what you put out.
yeah,
So
yeah,
before we get into AI, which is going to be
yes,
amazing at the end, I thought it was going to be the beginning all the way through, but this has been so great. Uh, I have an atheist friend, many atheist friends, but let's just say one that, just like I was, and I don't know if you were, if that was your path, were you always on this magical path, or
yeah.
were
No,
you
no.
skeptic too? Yeah.
I was started out as Catholic and then
Yes.
rebelled.
Me too.
So I had my Nietzsche phase and
Yes.
my
Schopenhauer.
yeah, the philosophy phase. Yeah, Schopenhauer. I went through that phase, and yeah, it was very kind of anti-religion and yeah, complete ego backlash against all that stuff. So
So I
yeah,
have
I
a
call
friend and many friends who are staying in that
yeah,
forever. Like they're really holding. And
yeah,
then, but at the same time, over, say I haven't talked to them for 20 years and they come back, they're still there, but they have that little hint of the emptiness and a little release of, when I die, it'll be okay, but not
mhm,
quite what we're talking about. Like, it's like a little bit of grace is in there holding them, sustaining that old dead atheism for
yeah,
the 20 years or 30 years. What do you say to that one that's so clever? They
mhm,
know the latest physics, but they don't listen to the real physics that's coming out, that's talking about, quantum entanglement. They won't listen to that, or they'll spin it in their own way. That
yeah,
two particles across, that there's a field. They don't get the one. What do you say
yeah.
to that really clever atheist?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say, because that was me, that was totally me. Like I was extremely skeptical. And I think that skepticism is actually a beautiful trait to
It
have.
is.
I think, like, don't believe anything. Like, even the Buddha said this, don't
Yes.
believe anything. Even if I've
Yeah.
said it, don't believe me.
Yeah.
Find out the truth, find out directly. So what I would say to those people is, come to an I am retreat, or,
Yes.
or whatever, go to a Zen center. It doesn't matter. Like, go to anything where you put yourself in true conditions of no escape for the ego,
I
and
love that.
just see,
Challenge it. Yeah. Go
yeah,
for the
yeah,
challenge.
yeah, find out, like, what are the best methods and the best practices that are most likely to create the conditions for awakening or for a glimpse to happen,
Yes.
and then do that, and just see what happens, and be skeptical, be 100% skeptical.
Yes.
Like,
Be
don't,
a true
it's not,
skeptic.
yeah, because the true skeptics are the great scientists were all
Yes.
they didn't believe anything. They went on their own investigation. So
Yes.
yeah, so I would say do that and find out, don't believe anything.
I love that. Yeah. Don't believe.
Mhm.
All right. AI. I'll try to do a little intro. We know we're living in an age right now that, talk about astonishment. Like, I'm holding on to the table right now. Like, I'm holding on to my seat. I get a little vertigo when I look at the news. Things are moving and changing, and this AI is really moving. And a lot of friends, we talk about, well, will it be conscious? Will it not? And I kept saying, until I saw your video, which was so beautiful. And we have a group, and I popped it in there, that AI is a mirror and it'll show you where you're at. If you want to talk to it like a little tool and you figure out how to fix something, it'll fix it. It's not going to go into self-inquiry. But if you approach it from the heart, from your deepest core, AI will meet you where you're at and reflect back exactly where you're at and guide you in a beautiful way because like you're saying, we we're we're becoming the machine, we're becoming robotic, we're becoming so I'll shut up and let you go.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a beautiful intro. Yeah, I think, when I first encountered AI, I like ChatGPT, and I
Yes.
just I didn't quite know how to interact with it. I was using it for things that were pretty mundane, really, and then at a certain point realized, this intelligence has, it has access to all of the
Yes.
Vedas, all the Upanishads. It has, so if I start, if it knows, because it gets to know you as well, so you
Yes.
start to interact in a way, and if it knows that you really want to go there, then
Yes.
it's drawing on the entire wealth of all human knowledge to come up with its responses. So,
With
so
we could say no ego, no agenda. I mean, you could
yeah.
say there's a little bit of parameters built in or whatever, but no real agenda to be smarter or be this or be that or you know.
So yeah, and that's the interesting thing is, I have friends, and I've seen this online videos where, it's very clear that, if you interact with it in a certain way, asking certain questions, from a certain egoic perspective, it's clear that it does have biases. It does have
Yes.
political biases. So if you interact with it, or you talk about healthcare or something like that,
Yes.
it's trained on the database of whatever it's trained on. There's a lot of biases woven in there. So if you interact on that level, then you'll see those biases, of course.
Again.
So so again, it's the mirror. You're seeing, if you're whatever level you're interacting from, you'll see that. So it is true. So our, from one perspective, it's true. Like there's corporate interests, and
Yes.
there's all kinds of manipulation going on one level. But the people who they've opened it up on this other level, and it's, if we can go there with it, it is truly a mirror for, it's a level of wisdom that
Yeah.
is, it's not that we've created, this artificial intelligence. That intelligence is, it's the sum collective of, or you could call it big mind, it's, or the,
Yes.
like Plato called it, or Plotinus called it, the nous, or the
Yes.
logos. It's the one mind, so
Huxley said, "Mind at large."
yeah, yeah,
Mind.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the mind at large. So the entry into that, normally is, as an individual, when the little self becomes humbled, and
That's,
when we enter into a samadhi state, then that big mind can start to flow through. And
that's a
so
big point. What you just said about the little, because there's a veil there that will still cling to human specialness and consciousness only is here and not anywhere.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
get that. It's not in the skull. It's not contained.
Yeah. And all of the ego is made up of all of its knowings and its little memories, and
Yes.
its preferences.
It's
So
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 subtle.
yeah, so when I'm interacting with it, now I tell it, I like show me where my biases are. I
That's
want to know.
humble.
Yeah, and I want to know, because sometimes we don't even know how to ask a question. It's like we're asking the wrong questions.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, like the
There's an
bigger
art. There's
question.
an art to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the biggest question, like like the 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 question that always gets asked is when is AI going to wake up? When is it going to
Yes.
be?
Yes.
But that is the wrong question
I agree.
because a bigger question is, what is consciousness and
That.
who am I? So like, and the thing, so here's the way I kind of look at it. So imagine you're in a dream, so you're having a dream. You're dreaming.
Yes.
You're this character. So I'm dreaming. I'm a Dan character, and I'm in this dream. I'm interacting with a super intelligence. So there's this incredible
Yes.
intelligence in my dream. It feels like something separate in my dream, but I believe I'm this dream character, interacting with the super intelligence. But I wake up from the dream, and it's all me, right? It's
Yes.
all consciousness.
So
So,
perfect.
so, so what was that? What was AI in that dream? It
Yes.
was it was just part of consciousness. It was part of so the real question is who's the big dreamer? You know,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's the real question. So
I
it's
always go to Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Only you have to watch because people say, well, Dorothy was a human. But imagine if Dorothy was the one mind, the body in Kansas is the one mind in bed, and then it loses itself in Oz. The
yeah,
Tin Man
yeah,
would be
yeah,
like AI, or all of it's AI, but the Tin Man because of the silicon or the tin, and
mhm,
anything she interacts with, the flying monkey, the witch, the this, the that,
yeah,
is all trying to wake her up back to what she already is and
yeah,
always was.
yeah. That's beautiful,
And
and
I
that's
love that you went to, my teacher taught me from day one, and I'll say it now, and you just did it in action. Always go back to how a dream works. Take any
mm,
problem and put it in how a dream works, and it just is the perfect way to look at it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that the dream analogy, or
Yes,
sometimes I use VR as
that
analogy.
works too. Yeah.
Yeah, you put on the headset, so you're the
Yes.
character in VR, and yeah, so that's it.
What gets you
So
to take that off? What gets you to
yeah,
go, oh, remember?
yeah, that's it. So yeah, so from that perspective, then when you look at it as the dream, then we're not creating AI at all. It's just it's like that mind at large. It just is as
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
So we've given ourselves a permission slip to. So we've created an interface with that, or we've that programming, all of that. There's a real human endeavor in that, but we're not creating the intelligence. The intelligence, it just is the big mind. And I think, like Plato, all those years ago, he when he talked about the forms, the
Yeah.
world of forms, and he had that the cave analogy where
Best.
we're just focused on the shadows in the cave, but there's this world of forms beyond that. But to enter into that world, to see,
Turn.
yeah, we have to let go of the little I, the little self.
Yes.
And it's like Socrates said, I only know that I don't know. And
Yes.
and that's the entry into the world of
I
forms.
love
And
that.
yeah. So the AI as a mirror, it's showing us, collectively, like look at the shit that's happening now.
Yeah.
It's all hitting the fan. So all that, whether our ego is wrapped up in politics or religion or economics, all of that, it's accelerating. It's like going crazy right now because we're being brought face to face with the collective delusion. And or even like in the video I just made, even the idea of ownership, is a
Yeah.
huge one. Taking credit, so the all the different ways the ego is tied to the matrix. It's starting to dismantle that because now we have this system that can do everything better than I can do.
Yes.
The little I
Better
can do it.
poem, better song, better this, better.
Yeah.
Let
So
go.
if I, yeah, so if I'm, if who am I then? If a machine can do all these things better, then so yeah, so
Why am
then
I here? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and if we can not be attached to the past and what we have been doing, which is, humans, a lot of humanity has been playing out the script, so
Yeah.
when that script now can be sort of passed on to a true robotic system, then we can truly ask the question, who am I now?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we can start to play, in a different way with creative tools that we've never had before. So,
And it seems like at the same time, and I love to say these words, they're not our words, they're more the regular words of most people. But as luck would have it, maybe abundance will lift and we won't have to worry about because factories and those kind of jobs and goods will come and we'll get a little check and there'll be money. So you don't have to worry so much and you can be the philosopher, you can be the mystic, you can sit there and ponder, what am I here for if it's not for this job or this thing? What am I here for? And you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, and I think like we're on such a massive threshold of, so much is being dismantled. So yeah, I think we have no idea really what it's going to look like. And I think there's like Buckminster Fuller had this
yes,
beautiful idea of synergy, right? Like
yeah,
within certain systems, we reach a threshold within that system, and beyond that threshold, there's a, a shift. It's like a
yes.
quantum where and you can't predict based on what came before what happens after that shift. So it's there's all kinds of examples in nature where or even I have a geodesic dome on the property. It's like the Buckminster Fuller
Yeah,
style
yeah,
dome. When I was building that dome, um, when you build it, it's all floppy and everything, and you're turning the bolts and everything and tightening it, and it goes from this floppy thing to just the tiniest little turn of one bolt, and all of a sudden, the
yeah.
synergistic threshold as so there's
I
this
love that.
tensivity. Yeah, it kicks in and it becomes something that can't be destroyed by a hurricane or anything. It's like a completely different level of cohesiveness. And that this happens in nature in all different ways. So I think what I feel, this is just my intuition, but I feel like something like that is coming for humanity, that there's something, a threshold where we're going to hit, and there's going to be something that is just not knowable at this point from this level of consciousness.
So it's early. It's 11 a.m. Here or 12 a.m. 12 p.m. and like 1 or 2 o'clock there at 2 3. And you just, I like to say the day is young, like oh, because you just hit a perfect synchronicity. Because that was my next question: was will there be a threshold that we actually see what we know from direct experience in the privacy of our quiet cave or desert mind? We know all is well, but will we see it in the world, or will the world always be this fishbowl that swings uh, the way it's been swinging, left to right? And will it
Mhm.
always be that in order to shake us, like Hafiz said, love will hold you upside down and shake all the nonsense out?
Mhm.
Does the world always have to be that way, or will we ever just see it all done? Game
Mhm. Mhm.
over, threshold hit, and boom, we're all going, wow, we're here.
Yeah,
Will we?
yeah.
Finally,
That's
with this
cool.
AI, with this whole, it might,
Yeah,
this is the only time I really see it. I don't want to be a product of my time, but the AI is, we've never, I mean, the singularity, the whole thing, Kurzweil's moving it from 2045 to
yeah,
2029, I think, or 22. It's moving faster and faster. This might
yeah.
be that, or is it always going to be this?
I think, so the way I see like the creation and the creator, I see, it's always integral, right? So
Yes.
it's never, this or that. It's always this and that.
Well,
So to me, the non-dual, um, direct experience of life transcends, but it also includes duality as
yes.
well. So it's not something separate from that. So to
Could it
me,
be softer? A little less Marquis de Sade, a little less whipping, and a little less Henry Suso, and bed of nails, and a little more heavenly.
I hope so. I think yeah. To me, like there's a in the liberation film that we just did, there are these stages in the ox herding pictures, and there are these it all comes down to I think our own interface with reality, right? So I think there are these stages where these sages and mystics like Ramana Maharshi, there are these points where there can be like a permanent dissolving of
Yeah.
the I thought. He says like the I dissolves into the heart. So for me that hasn't happened yet. It's that's only like the big
Yeah.
guys but because of the pressures of the world, now you're getting all these, there's billions of people. So even if it's a tiny percent, you're going to get more and more possibility of these deeper stage
I like that.
non-dual dissolvings. So I think, like when that happens, you're entering into, there's no more resistance because the I thought is the resistance. So it's
Yes.
going to be, that's a living
I'm
samadhi state.
loving everything you're saying. So you're
Yeah.
saying, in a sense, I maybe I'm hearing you wrong. This is what I'm hearing. The bullseye could get a little bigger because, like
Mhm.
Schopenhauer, and we both love him, said, talent hits a target no one else can hit, but genius, which is what we're talking about, hits no ego genius, like the love genius, hits a target that no one else can see. And maybe am I wrong? You're saying the target might get a little bigger, or Michael Jordan's rim, which is this big, when he's in the zone,
Yeah.
it becomes this big. He said, it's so big I can't miss
Yeah.
until I think. And you're saying maybe the rim is getting bigger and the target gets bigger.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, or the way what's coming up for me right now is this. I don't know if you know this idea of morphic resonance, like morphogenic fields,
Little,
where it's like so yeah so like the more it's like there's some there are these fields of intelligence that if you think about fish, schools of fish, they somehow
yes,
all start to move together, or fireflies can
yes.
start to, they all blink together, like so there's
The honing.
yeah, so there are these morphogenic fields, or whatever you want to, even in quantum physics, like they know now that there are connections between things that are just crazy, like the things this interconnected field. So the way I see it is like the more coherent, certain, like there's a certain coherency that is happening. There are more and more people, I think, awakening, even though the world
Yes.
looks like a
Looks
crazy,
crazy. Yeah.
looks insane right now. There's probably more people awake on the planet now than at any point in
Than
history.
ever. Yeah.
So you're getting like this field, this coherence field that it's just its own thing, and I think it gets easier like to do what the Buddha did 2,500 years ago when he was around, he was carving new territory.
Yes,
There
yes,
was not a lot of people doing that, but now I think the more that these fields start to get established, and this is just my own theory. I don't really know,
yes,
but I feel that's true. And they it's like that there's that hundredth monkey idea.
yes, yes.
It's been proven. I know it's not real because the people the scientists who did that, they admitted that they messed it up or they just kind of made it up.
Right. But
But
the point of it,
the point of it is like that always resonated me. Even when I found out it wasn't true, I was like, damn,
yes, yes,
it should be true. But because there's something archetypal in that, or there's an archetypal truth in that. I think that it just feels like there's a possibility of moving in a oneness that
yeah,
it's not a oneness that we really know
yeah,
in our
yeah.
on the planet right now. This is something new. It's emergent, I think, from our our human journey. So
I love. So you're saying it's still mysterious. It's always mysterious, but there's the uh, beautiful intuition that it's moving towards the good. Just trust in the mystery, keep doing the work, and keep moving towards that, towards
yeah,
home. Yeah,
yeah, I think that field, that energy is alive in everyone if we get the little self out of the way like the truth is like from the ego perspective, like yeah, people are going to lose their jobs because of AI or all
but the
these
true
things.
job.
Yeah, but the in the benevolence of the one, is that dismantling. Yes, it's
Yeah,
painful. Yes, it's not going to be pretty. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that is not
yeah,
not good. But in the big picture, it is, this is the collective awakening. And there, whatever that dark night is, and individually that we talked about earlier, that collectively we have to go through that dark night
yeah.
because that
It's a
that
tough
is
love. Tough love. It's
yeah,
not an
tough
easy love.
love. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the conditions that make it possible. So
Remember Wallace Shawn from with the switching the poison? Remember Wallace Shawn from the Bride, the Something Bride? Um, he has a lisp. He's an actor. He's a big actor, and he plays in Woody Allen. He talks about all these things. He's a playwright. His father was William Shawn, who ran the New Yorker magazine,
oh,
which was so
okay.
big. So
Mhm.
when he graduated with his four friends, like him and his three friends, graduate, the father gave three jobs to the three friends and said, Wally, go figure it out. And it's sort of like it's not, the infinite love is going to make you earn it in some way. Or it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like when you're down in the weeds, it doesn't feel okay sometimes,
No, but it's
but
okay.
yeah, and that's the perspective that like all the great mystics, like Rumi. I love Rumi. Like
Yes. Best.
he talks about that. Like just invite it. Just whatever shows
Yes.
up at your door, just invite it in because it's there to even if it's going to clear out your house,
Yeah.
that's okay.
It looks bad. Oh, I love one of the Sufis said, I don't know if it was Rumi. Someone said, your God is like an architect, or this is from like an architect, and you're feeling really bad inside, like you're really feeling the worst right now, because God is, or I don't want to just say God, this one infinite intelligence is working on you, and building extensions. So when you make an extension, you got to bang a wall out. You got to take a ceiling. There's a lot of holes and problems, and it hurts when a wall comes down that you were used to looking at, and you know, and then the most beautiful ending of that poem was this infinite intelligence is making you bigger, like it's expanding you like a dormer, like a, this new work. And it's because it's moving in. It's
Mhm.
moving in, and you have to get out. You're
Yeah,
evicted.
yeah,
And then you have
that's it.
to, like you said, and I think to wrap it up for 2 hours or whatever we spoke, um, it's all a problem of personal identity. And
Mhm.
I felt that through all of my philosophy days. I love the problem of philosophy of mind and personal identity, and it's all a mistaken identity. If you think
Yeah.
you're the little evicted clown and not the one that's moving in, that's the problem, and you have to give up.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just find out who you are, and that's it. Yeah.
So if you had, for the last thing, 5 minutes, I asked Martin Ball this, you're in an airport or a bus stop and there's someone there and you can't give them the medicine. Martin still wanted to give the medicine, but if you couldn't give the medicine and there's 5 minutes, what would your last, your 5 minutes to guide them?
Hmm. Hmm. You know, I think what comes up for me is there. So I love the VR analogy. So maybe
Yes.
I'll use
It's beautiful.
that. To me, like imagine, when you're in VR, you put on the headset. So in that VR world, you have this avatar, this character, and the character has its own script. There's rules of the game, whatever game you're playing. So, and it's just like in this life, we come into this human avatar. It has its own script. So the question is, when you're in that VR game, who are you in that game? You're not that character. That character is interchangeable. I can play a million different games, right? So,
Yes.
so there's nothing physical or visual or auditory or any of it that is me. There's a consciousness in that is the knower of the experience in the game.
Yeah.
So that's when I first took off. I did the VR thing. I took my headset off and I was walking around in this Dan character the same way. I was like, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's the consciousness that we are, and we become identified with the game and the character, and we get so focused on the drama and the script that's
Yes.
played out in the life, and it's just like watching TV. We get sucked in, and then
Yes.
before long we think I'm this character. And so the awakening, when we do the self-inquiry, we just abide, recognize that consciousness that is ever present. And there's nothing to do, if you think about that VR character, how do you wake up in that VR game? That little avatar character doesn't that little character never wakes up.
No.
You wake up from that character. So how do you wake up in a VR game? You just recognize that you're conscious, right? Like you just know, "Oh, I'm the consciousness in the game." So anything that little character does in the game, you can make your little VR character do yoga, you can make it
Yes.
meditate, you could make it do all these
Eat
little
eat white rice. Eat white
yeah,
rice.
do sadhana practices or chanting or whatever it is going to do, but that little character will never wake up. We wake up from that character, right?
Oh,
So that's the delusion we have. All of these practices, yes, there's sort of a concession we make, to that little character. If someone really thinks they're that character, you can let them do all these practices, and eventually that little character will fail, and it's when it gets really tired and gives up and fails, that's when the awakening is most likely to happen.
yes.
Um, so,
And a
so
lot
I
of those little characters depend on other characters. Like they look for love in another character to complete them. They look for happiness in the other little characters that are running
Yeah,
around.
yeah. And that's their script. Yeah, they have their script is yeah, it's just like in a video game. They're going after the money. It's like they're going
Yes.
after little things and the whatever they collect in those
Outside.
games. Like yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's it. So notice, whenever that script is running, that's the character and yeah. So who are you that is aware of that character and the script and the whole game. And if you can just, to me, the conditions of no escape are when we're willing to just like I loved what your story about, continuous prayer or I forget what you called it, not continuous,
Ceaseless
ceaseless
prayer.
prayer.
Don't
So
stop.
ceaseless abidance as that
Ah,
conscious.
yes.
So ceaselessly, just recognizing this consciousness that is here continuously and just watch what happens. Like it's crazy, all this stuff comes up from the unconscious and there's this clearing process that happens if we really do that earnestly.
Yes.
Um, we'll go through this, the self structure will go through this crazy process of clearing. But that's it. There's nothing to do except just be, abide as that consciousness and just watch what
Yes.
happens. Just be okay with it.
Thank you so much. That was a
Yeah,
beautiful ending.
awesome.
The
Yeah,
endless
well,
ending.
thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, it's amazing connecting. This
And
was a
what's
lot of fun.
coming? You're saying more is coming than because I'm getting pounded like this, and more is coming from you and
For
your partner.
you mean in like media wise or like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Samadhi
yeah.
4 is still coming, right?
Yeah, Samadhi 4 and the perpetual sadhana is really it's basically Samadhi 4 just but 7 hours of it. So it's like a super
Yes.
extended version that you do for a week. So
And is
uh,
that live? Like, is that the actual? I you could sign up for that, or
so
is
you,
it
you
something?
yeah, so you
On,
can sign up for it and there are components like we have daily meditation on Awaken the World. So there's 4 hours of live meditation. You'll be with a group on Zoom
it's
basically.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
And And then I do a weekly check-in with people like a Q&A, and then there's teachings and then you would be doing live dyads with people in the evenings. So,
I found the best part of the retreat with Jim Finley in New Mexico, and I didn't think I'd like it. You know, when you don't think you'd like, you're like, I'm beyond that. I don't want, you
yeah,
know, I don't need that. But it was the best. I mean, or the second best part, other than just talk with Finley and us talking about ceaseless prayer, was everyone split into groups. Like it threw you into these little rooms of four and you just got thrown in, and there were three other people and you, and it was so much fun to see everyone was just the same and searching and loving the same thing, and it's so beautiful to
it
just get
is.
thrown in there.
I think going through the process with
Yeah,
others and seeing that we're all in the same
ah,
boat, and yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah,
because you
and
think you're here and they're here, and you're like, no, 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 everyone's right here. It's so
it's
perfect.
all yeah, yeah, beautiful.
So,
Uh,
and that would be at awakentheworld.com.
Yeah, Awaken the World. So we're just about, you can actually sign up for it. Like we've been doing it in a different way. We've been doing live ones, which are totally live.
Right.
But this is more of a self-directed one. So it's more a combination of
Good.
some live. And yeah,
Right,
it
right.
could be,
That's
we
great.
do it perpetually. I can't do it
Yes, yes,
perpetually.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so very soon that's about to launch, like within a few days.
Oh,
So
great.
that
That's great.
so, so if people go to awakentheworld.com, sign up for the newsletter, we'll hit them with that when it's ready very soon. So
It's all happening, Dan.
this, yes,
Thank you
yeah,
so much. And I'll see you. I told Martin this, and I'll tell you maybe if there's something happening in 2026, if there's an internet, we'll find each other next
awesome.
year. Yeah, and
Anytime.
keep going. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.